Hey guys, welcome back. BGCKR here. We've got sort of a weird personal setup this Tuesday, so we're not able to record a full Q&A. Good time to remind people to drop questions for us that they want us to answer moving forwards, but we wanted to make sure that there was still some content coming out for you guys. So what we have here for you today is our fastest Phantom Zone complete crystal run through.
Ever.
Yeah.
We keep on saying it. Each time at the time that we say it, it is true for what we're looking at.
Yeah, but this seems about as fast as it can get.
Right. So I want to say that the more I play Phantom Zone, I'm playing it a lot. Every season, playing at least 6 complete runs.
Yeah.
And I think I reevaluated based on the team that we finally settled on. We talked about it in a previous video about this. The team's really unchanged, but the strategy in terms of what tasks you want have. And I've reevaluated where I think Health Steal is a little bit better than basic attacks, but not by much. Which is both are a little bit better than 10 online fights in a row.
Yep.
And they're all better than damage over time. But to me, those 4 are ranked really at the top. I'm happy to see any of those.
So for the challenges that you want to complete, you want Health Steal, then followed by Basic, followed by 10 online fights, followed by damage over time.
Right. And the next one that's actually risen up in rank as far as how easy it is and how fast it is 120 damage over times. Because I can do that in 2 fights, basically. Consistently.
Yeah.
Then you've got a big grouping of a bunch of things that take a bit longer, like specials, critical hits, tag-ins, blocks, and what I didn't think originally, but I do believe now, 20 fights in a row is actually harder and worse than 120 damage over time because you need 4 fights to get 20 in a row, even with all the bonuses I'm saying. And then you've got stun combo enders and supers, which are pretty awful. You can grind your way through them, but they take way longer than they're worth. And then power steal, which is not worth it at all. You really have to be looking only for that.
Yeah, because it doesn't work very well.
Yeah. So what you'll see is, unlike the strategy in terms of how you gear them, the biggest change strategy is in terms of what we're picking. And you'll notice that it's a bit of a gamble. The first setup where you get to reroll as often as you want for your 4 tasks, you'll notice that there weren't 10 online fights.
Yeah. And
10 online fights, if you start from the first fight of multiplayer, with all the bonuses, you can't do it in less than 3 fights. But if it shows up after the first fight, you can do it in 2.
Yeah.
So that's where the gamble comes in, that if you don't guarantee that you have it in the first fight, what you're hoping for is to get it after the first fight. And the important thing to keep that in mind, or to keep in mind when you're going that strategy, you don't want any of your first tasks to be 20 fights in a row, because they're actually exclusive to each other.
You can't have both 20 and 10.
Right.
Which makes sense.
It does. Well, I guess it avoids double dipping, but they are different tasks.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a pain, but it gives us a bit of a working strategy for how to pick them, is that you want to have basic attack, you want the health steal, and you do not want the 20 fights, and you could have the 10 online fights, but you don't need it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to hope that when you clear the first 2 tasks, that one of them is potentially going to be a 10. If you've got a 20, you can't have the 10.
Yeah, and so, having all 3 good tasks in, right, is efficient at the start still. But if you don't have it, it takes a long time to roll it, and if you don't have it, there's a chance that you can actually get, coincidentally, a really good task as soon as a new one pops up, like we have here. And that gives you the opportunity to have a ridiculously fast Phantom Zone run.
So, and you see that it did happen, right? After the first fight, we did get 10 online in a row, which means that we had a third slot that didn't have to be filled with it, that we could actually complete.
Yeah.
So there's that gamble, right? Because if you don't get the roll, you play it that way because at least there's a chance of going faster, but if you don't get lucky, then you end up taking longer. And the other strategic point that I've come to realize after playing it so much is that 120 damage over times with this setup is spectacular.
Yeah, easy.
And the reason why, it is all in Justice 2 Aquaman. So every other character you can put on damage over time gears. And we have on him. We've given him the Lexor gauntlets. You can pick anybody who's got a damage over time special. And he does, special 1. You take the person, you give him another piece of gear, quick engine. Basically, as long as the fight lasts long enough, you're doubling the damage over time effects that he's given.
So that's 4.
And because he's got a passive that rinses off back onto the opponent if they do it to you.
Yeah.
We see so many Astro Harnesses. Let's take advantage of that. Astro Harness actually has a damage over time. It's tiny, but you can flip all that back on the opponent so that 120 damage over times you can do in 2 fights.
Yeah. Which is great. Yeah, so I guess the important thing is that because this is such a fast video, we're not going to be able to cover anything. If anything is confusing here, if you're looking for what our team is, right, we are referencing back to last video. We'll have last video in the description. Although I fear we may have mentioned that too late.
Yeah. And so sometimes if you want to go fast, and I guess we're going to really only count runs where you use 1 free reroll and at most 1 5 nth metal reroll, which we're going to use again here. So we got rid of the 20. It gave us steel power, and we're going to get rid of that again because the 20 takes 4 fights, which is not awful, but it's not one of the top tier, which is health steal, basic attacks, 10 online fights, damage over time, or 120 damage over time.
Yeah, and I think the important part to notice is, we're talking about taking gambles for this, right?
Right.
And so on average, if you're gambling stuff, right? Sometimes it makes the fights longer, sometimes it makes the fights shorter. On average, these gambles might actually not shorten how long it takes to complete Phantom Zone at all.
Right.
But what we're doing here by trying to do it as fast as possible is sort of setting a secondary objective that makes it more fun, right? Yeah. So I think some of the stuff that we're doing doesn't actually probably shorten the overall average time that we spend completing the Phantom Zone.
Right.
But trying to get runs that are this fast like this makes it a more enjoyable experience, and it makes you a lot more engaged, right? This is because we're grinding, right? What this is a grind, but the way that we're choosing to grind here is a lot more fun, I would say, than just sort of picking away at Phantom Zone really slowly, because we've optimized it, we figured out stuff, and it almost feels, we're no speedrunners, right? We're not good enough at video games to be speedrunners, but it almost feels like we've created our sort of own mini version of speedrunning, where instead of going from like the start of a game to completion, where there's actually sort of a long-term carryover reward for us, where it's just how fast we're getting our stuff.
Right. Yeah. And this is, I always feel like when we say the best, the fastest, whatever, we end up coming back to it later after playing more.
Yeah.
I really do feel like this is an ideal kind of team that you really can't surpass.
Yeah, and this was a really lucky sort of set of rolls and everything. It's going to be hard, I think, for runs to be much faster than this. If anybody... If anybody feels like they have really fast Phantom Zone speedruns, we would love it if you uploaded video and people compare times, or even just stopwatch timed yours. Obviously, if you're setting anything that is like a record,
what we just saw was we flipped back Astro Harness damage over time and Arkham Origins Joker damage over time right back on them, and gave them our damage over time with a special one, and with Lexor Gauntlets.
It's a lot.
And it'll double if the fight lasts long enough.
Yeah.
Which is... And then we get the bonuses.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. So this is why, to me, the 120 damage over time effects, I never realized just how much more effective it is, because 120 compared to, say, 195 specials, you don't always do a damage over time with your specials. So it felt like the specials would be just as good. See that? Wow. Almost.
Man.
Right? That was... almost in one.
Yeah. That was really close.
And the other thing is, the more I play, the more I appreciate the total damage over time, which is 400,000, because it is, after the first fight, it is quite easy to get that in one run, even though it's worth just over half the points.
Yeah.
So much better.
Yeah. So I guess that is our question. If anybody who wants to answer, I'd love to hear from everybody. What do you think your average Phantom Zone time is? If you have a sort of fastest time, do you know what either approximately or exactly your fastest time ever through a Phantom Zone crystal was, start to finish? And if you feel like you've got the chops, and you're like either record one, and so that you have video proof if you think you're really, really blitzing fast, or just stopwatch it and let us know how long it takes, if that interests you at all. Because I think it is a way of making Phantom Zone runs a lot more fun and engaging, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. So I guess it's really two parts then in terms of this whole speed run thing.
Yeah.
Besides the team that we've already established, besides the gear that we've already established, it is evaluating how we've ranked the different tasks, so you decide what you're going to do. And in this case, there is a specific gamble that's worth taking, that if you happen to get 20 fights in a row, spend a roll on it. Just so you can give yourself a chance to get the 10 online one, which is way better. Right? Double the points in half the number of fights. Oh, wow. And that was it.
There we go.
Phantom Zone is unlocked.
Yeah.
And that was 7... 1... That was 6 fights, actually. Not even 7.
Wow.
So, yeah. 10.5 minutes.
Yeah, who cares about the last fight?
Right, exactly.
We're going for the speed run.
I think that's probably the fastest number of fights that we've ever done it in, which is 6 fights.
Yeah.
Never done it faster than 6.
And let's see how much fast that'll go.
And the fights were wicked fast.
Yeah.
What else is there to say about this? I think nothing really. Like, it's just, we'll maybe put a list in the description of all the tasks and how they rank.
Yeah.
But you can't really plan for a really fast fight until you have an idea of what you're doing with
And there we go. That was fast.
Yeah. Yep. Just over 11 minutes.
Yeah.
And the bonus is, this was a final crystal run. So we have a little teaser at the end.
Or you can see our rewards, yeah.
All right.
So there we go. Yeah, I look forward. I don't know why. I have a feeling somebody's going to say they did it in like 8 minutes or something ridiculous and then have no information to back it up. I mean, probably not specifically, but there usually is for stuff like this where people go, I can do it in 17 seconds with one eye closed and one hand tied behind my back. Yeah. So there we go. To finish up, I would love to give a huge thank you to all the wonderful folks who support us on Patreon. That is Console Peasant and Ed Woon, who are supporting us at the highest last word tier, Mohammed Al-Shady at the Your Message Here tier, Shawn Farrell, Daniel Simonson, Aaron Maule, Michael DeVries, Brandon C., Irvin Ruiz, and Eddie Du, who support us on the credited level, and Chris Wolf, Scarlet Danny, Awesome Gamer 241, Pavu RS, Gavin Malott, and Isfar E at the gratitude level. Thanks so much for your support, and we'll see you next time. Komoda.